Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Neil. I'm the Senior Trainer at Creative Hut. We're a STEAM education resource and training provider. And so for those of you that are joining us for the first time today on Lesson 11, just want to quickly run you through where this all comes from. So one of our key partners is Makeblock, who are brilliant STEAM education company who actually usually deal in providing lots of hands-on education resources like robotics that you can see on the screen here, which cater for early years all the way through to further higher education. They also deal in lots of other brilliant hands-on resources like 3D printers and laser boxes or laser cutters. What goes hand in hand with all of this is their free of charge programming software and curriculum materials to help you deliver all of this in the classroom or at home. And what this is, a part of what they've developed in combination with this is their STEAM on Board program. And that's their platform for providing lots of different support to teachers or any end users of their kits who on their kids usually, sorry, that can be in the form of face-to-face training, online training, and any other support needed in terms of lesson plans, activity guides, general user guides for the kits, and in any way that's needed for the end users. But of course, at the moment, it's a little bit more difficult for us to get our hands on the physical resources. So what Makeblock have brilliantly done is put together their new STEAM on Board online training course, which is all focused on the free programming software Mblock and doesn't require any physical kit. So it's a great tool for everyone to use and get involved with at this time when it's a bit more difficult for us to get our hands on the physical kit. So I know obviously a lot of you will have been through this already with the previous sessions, but just to recap for anyone joining us for the first time today, we are delivering this course over 12 individual tutorials, which we're delivering as live webinars or have been delivering as live webinars over the course of these last 4 weeks. And they are for 12 45-minute lessons, which you can then deliver to your pupils or children wherever you're working. So don't worry if you are joining us for the first time today. All of those past sessions are recorded and available to view on our YouTube channel, and we'll make sure you've got access to all the lesson materials which go hand in hand with those. So that's the lesson slides, lesson plans, and example programs which are useful for helping you to deliver the lessons. What we're also encouraging everyone to do is also to sign up directly with Makeblock on their landing page, because it actually gives you access to even more live webinars, which might be at a more suitable time for you. You can also access all the lesson materials directly from that site, and it gives you the opportunity to get involved with their user community, which through which they'll be encouraging you to share work that you and your pupils have been doing. You'll also be able to access work that others have done, so it's a great way to share ideas and see best practice, and you also get the opportunity to share any feedback on these training courses and indeed any other future courses, so you can share your thoughts on what might need to be adapted or added to. So make sure you sign up with that as well. And of course, last but not least, what you will need to get access to is the Mblock 5 programming software. So this is what all of these lessons are based upon, completely free of charge, can be downloaded at this link onto laptops and tablets and can be streamed in a browser. So don't worry if you've not done that yet, you will be able to do that after the webinar. You don't necessarily need that to follow along in the tutorial, but make sure you do get access to that afterwards. Okay, so we are going on to Lesson 11. So this is part 2 of Fruits War. So part 1 was in lesson 10. So for those of you joining for the first time on this one, make sure you go back and watch lesson 10 as we're building on what we were creating and learning within Fruits War number 1. Okay, but the objective of this lesson, lesson number 11, we're actually now going to be looking at variables for the first time. So how we can use variables to store and make use of data, which are great for use again in the design of our gameplay within the different games that we are creating. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in lesson 11. But just to quickly recap what we did look at in lesson number 10, or part 1 of the Fruits War. So hopefully you remember the new friend that we got introduced to, which was the little monkey. And we were learning about how we can get the monkey to dodge different coconuts, as you can see on the screen here. And we were creating this gameplay by using these blocks. So we were looking at how, again, we can make use of the X and Y coordinates on the stage, but we were actually bringing in randomization, which we hadn't looked at before now. So obviously randomization is a great tool to use as part of designing our gameplay. We're also looking at operators, so we could compare two different values against each other and use those within our conditional statement. So if a comparison was true, so if something was less than another thing, then it would do something else. So we're using that in combination with our if-then statements block. So hopefully you can remember how we made use of all of these blocks. If not, we can always go back and take another look at lesson number 10. But what we're going to be doing in this one is something slightly different. So obviously in that last one, we were looking at monkey being based on the seaside and having to dodge just those coconuts. This time we're going to be seeing monkey in action in the forest. So he was getting a little bit fed up of it, just constantly being coconuts falling down from the sky trying to hit him. So he ran away from the beach and has now come into a forest where there's lots and lots of lovely fruits for the monkey to try and catch and eat. So that's what he really wants, is the nice fruit like the bananas to catch rather than the coconuts. So that's what this game is based around. We'll have a look at this in action in a second. But again, you've got your simple controls for the monkey. So the left and right arrows on the keyboard of your laptop can control the movement of the monkey. And this time we want to have a contest to see who can get a highest score in 30 seconds. Okay, so again, you can play against each other. So that might be you playing against your children or pupils. Or if you've got multiple kids that you're working with, they can obviously have a contest against each other. But the aim is to try and score as many points as we can within 30 seconds. And we score points by catching those bananas which are falling from the sky. So I'm going to load up the game now. So I'm just going to go to find that. So is this code that I've got set up already here? Just going to wait for that to load up. Should just be a second. Here we go. And again, I won't go into the detail of the code that's being used to control this game. We'll come back to that later on. I just want to show you the game in action first of all. It's going to make the stage area bigger. I'm going to hit the green flag to begin the game, and I'll be using the left and right arrow keys to begin. And one of the other things to look out for is we've now got this score icon here, which we create by using those variables, which I just mentioned before. We'll come on to that in a second. So let's see the game in action first of all. So I hit green, and you can see, so I'm controlling monkey left or right with my arrow keys. What I want to do is try and catch these bananas. And you can see, hopefully, in the top left-hand corner, that score is increasing by 1 each time I do catch one of these bananas. You can see I'm on 7 now. I can just keep on going and going. And also the rule would be that we do this for 30 seconds and see how many bananas we can catch. But simple as that as a starting point. Hopefully that is making sense how this works. I'm going to stop there and we'll come back to the game a little bit later on. But that's the first basic part of what we're working towards creating. Okay, so also some of the key points we need to understand to be able to start creating this for ourselves is the use of those variables. So it's the first time that we've been looking at the use of variables within our code and in our gameplay. And one of the first things to know is how you can actually create a variable. So they aren't built in straight away into the code. They're actually created by us from this orange section here. So you can see where it says variable, and we can create as many as we want. So again, remember, variable is just something where we can store data, okay? And I was gonna, you'll get to understand this more as we build up the program, but as a starting point, I just want to go back to the coding interface, which is here. I'm going to start this from new, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about with these variables. Don't need to save that game. So it's this section within our sprites here. So you can see you've got the orange section of variables. I click onto that. At the moment, there's nothing in this, okay? So we need to create a variable. So I can make a variable here. I can call it whatever I want. You can have as many variables, you can call them whatever you want, but for the purpose of this, we just want to simply call it score, okay? And you want to create that for either all of the sprites you're working with in your program, or you can do it for individual sprites, but we can keep it for all for the purpose of this. Hit okay, and you can see straight away, it's automatically creates these 4 different blocks which we can control. Okay, so they are fairly self-explanatory, but let's just go back to our slides to help talk through this. So you can see you've got this great overview of what those 4 different blocks are. So we can simply set the variable score. So it can be whatever we want. It doesn't need to be score. We can again name whatever we want, but we can set that to be a specific value. So for example, for this, we're going to always set at the beginning to 0, 0. We want to keep adding to that, but you can specify the starting value on that to be whatever you want. We can also use a block to change the score. And again, it can be by whatever specific amount. We're going to be changing it just by 1 to begin with. So every time we catch a banana, for example, we want to change the variable score by 1. And you can also do the simple things similar to what we do with the sprites, where we can show and hide sprites. We can also show and hide the variable on the screen. So we can have the score in view within the stage area of the screen, or we can hide the view of that variable within the screen as well. Okay, and of course you can combine that with other blocks within your program, depending on what works best for you and what you're creating. But that's what the basic parts of the variable are, what they mean and how we can use them. But we'll start to build this up as part of the code to help you understand it more and more. So we'll go through these and step-by-step guides for the initial task to do this. So the first thing we want to do is bring in that banana sprite. So you can see it's asking us to delete this panda one. We're not using panda today. We're just using it to begin with the banana sprite. So let's go back to that coding interface. I can just close off panda here, delete that, and add in a new sprite, which is going to be banana too. So I can just start searching banana. You can see you've got 3 different banana sprites to work with. We want to use this one here. Select that and hit OK. And next step is obviously start to build up the code for this. So we're just going to do a really basic code just to demonstrate this. So the first step is bringing in that when green flag clicked block, which I'm sure you're all getting very familiar with now. So it's just in our events block area here. We then want to bring in the set score from the variables block area. So I'm going to bring in that like so, set score to 0. And we also want that to appear on the screen. So we need to bring in the show variable score from this section as well. So I'm just going to click and drag that into place, simple as that. And what we're going to do to show how this works is we're just going to bring in some key press blocks. So when space key pressed, we want to do something. So let's just do that first of all. So into our events, and when space key press, bring that into our script area. And what we want it to do is change the score by 1. So every time I hit the space key press, we want it to change the score by 1. So it's going to bring that one in as well. Let's go back to our variables and change score by 1 like so. And it's to demonstrate this further, how we can use those show and hide a little bit more. Also want to bring in another control for when a key pressed is, sorry, another event, when a key pressed, we want it to hide the variable. So let's do that as well. Go to events, and when a key pressed, like so, we want it to then hide the variable. As simple as that. That's the main basic steps for this. We'll now click the green flag to run it. I'm just going to start pressing the space bar several times so you can see what happens within that view of the score variable and what happens when I press A. Okay, so remember we've got these code here, controlling it. I'm just going to make the screen bigger now, hit green. And so nothing's happening at the moment. It's waiting for me to hit the space bar, which I'm going to do now. And you can see in this top left-hand corner where the score is visible, it's increasing that score by 1 each time I hit that space key. Simple as that. And if I hit the A, you can see it disappears. Okay, so really straightforward, but it's just a really useful, simple task to demonstrate how we can use that. Just refreshing it again with the green flag here, so you can see this each time. Keep on hitting space, and it's adding up the score. If I hit A, it disappears. Okay, so really basic ways to help understand how we can create the variables and start to use them. But of course, we can use these in lots of different ways as part of bigger, more complex programs. But hopefully that all makes sense as a starting point. Okay, so the next stage would, of course, be getting them to get hands-on and bring all this into creating the full game that we saw earlier. Okay, so we want to start to build this up to create the game where the monkey is being able to catch the monkeys and increase the score. So it does break this down into what the requirements are. First one being creating a suitable backdrop like the Forest 2 to bring monkey into the forest to play the game. And then you've got these different requirements for the two main sprites. So we've got the monkey sprite and the banana sprite. So you can see it's spelling out what we want the monkey to be able to do. So we want it to be at a certain position on the stage area. So on the X and Y coordinates, we want monkey to be down here. We want to make use of the directional arrows and the move steps to get it to go left and to right, and use the arrow keys on the keyboard to control it. And then we want to control the bananas. This is really similar to what we were doing within the Fruits War 1 tutorial, where we were looking at getting the coconuts falling from the top of the screen downwards. We're doing exactly the same thing with the banana, but we're combining that with those variable blocks to get it to increase the score each time the monkey hits the banana. Okay, so let's take a closer look at that within the coding. I'm not going to again build this up step by step because I'm sure you're familiar with the process that we go through and are able to do this for yourselves and guide the people through it. You do have the step-by-step guides within the lesson plan, which I'll show you in a second. But this is the basic part of the costumes. You can see again, we've got those if-then statements together with our conditional blocks of the key presses and controlling direction of the monkey left to right. So with these two parts of the code here, fairly self-explanatory. And then with the banana, hopefully this looks familiar. So these parts of the code and these parts of the code look familiar from the what we were doing with the coconuts in the last lesson. The main difference we've got is, as you can see now, we've added in those variable blocks to show and set the score to 0 at the start of the game. And we brought in here to change the score by 1. So part of the if touching monkey now is change the score by 1. So that's similar to what we were doing with the coconuts, where if it was monkey touching the coconut, it would be the end of the game. So we were broadcasting the message to end the game. This time we're just using that change score by 1. Okay, so that's what's happening within the code. Again, fairly self-explanatory, but if you and the pupils do want the helping hand to do this, if I just go quickly to the lesson plan, which is here, you do have the full step-by-step guides on how to start creating this. So this is all contained within the lesson plan, which we'll be providing with you. So if you and the pupils do need a helping hand to build this up, you've got this to use as a reference point. But of course, I think before going into this, always encourage the kids to see if they can create it themselves, because again, they've been working through all these previous lessons, so hopefully have started to build up the knowledge and the confidence to start creating this for themselves. Okay, so just to quickly emphasize what's happening there. So you've seen the code now. Let's just play that game one more time so you can see what's happening. So I'm controlling monkey left and right, and if I hit into the monkey, into the banana sprite, you can see that score increasing in the top left-hand corner each time the banana sprite does touch the monkey. Okay, so hopefully you're understanding how this is corresponding to that code that we were just looking at. Okay, just simple as that. But hopefully you'll be happy to start guiding the kids through building that up for themselves. So we're going to stop that there now, because of course the next stage in this is the extension task. So I'm sure you can imagine where we were going with this, but the suggestion here is that we want to combine what we were learning about in Fruits War 1, which was the falling coconuts, which cause a bit of pain and damage to monkey and end the game. We want to combine that together with the gathering the bananas, which we've been looking at within this lesson. And we can change the mechanics and the rules for this in any way that the pupils want, okay? So they can adapt the scoring system. So maybe it could be that when they catch a banana, it's increasing the score by 1, but if they hit a coconut, it decreases the score by 1 rather than going straight to it being game over. Or of course, they could introduce lots more fruits. So we've just been looking at introducing the banana, but why not introduce lots more sprites for the strawberries, the grapes, the the lemons, whatever it might be. They can bring in whatever they want, and maybe there's higher scores that they can associate to the different fruits, bringing some interesting ways. Interesting difference on the way they increase their score that way. What's also suggesting here is that we bring in indicators for the time length. So we suggested at the beginning of this that they might play the game for 30 seconds, but why not use a variable to help display how much time they've had and how much time they've got left. So I've gone for a basic combination of all of that. So I'm going to go to a example extension here. So let's bring this in. I don't want to say what I've worked on there. And this is my example of the extension. Okay, so I'm just going to play this first of all. So then you can see how hopefully see how I've expanded on this, and we'll talk through the code. Just going to hit my green flag here, and off we go. Let's try that again. Here we go. Okay, so you can see I've got the monkey now with the falling bananas, but also the falling coconut. So I'm trying to connect the bananas. Okay. And unfortunately, the game was over there because I did hit the coconut. See that one more time. So you can see we've got the coconuts, bananas falling random positions on that y-axis from the top of the screen. Random places for the x-axis, but always at the top of the screen for each. And I'm doing my best to catch the bananas, but avoid the coconuts. I'm not doing too bad, but hopefully you can see towards the right, in the top left-hand corner. I've also now got a time variable. You can see it's ticking over the seconds. Oh, okay, game over for me. So I managed to get to a score of 15 bananas within 28 seconds. Okay, so again, it's a great way of them competing against each other, against their friends or siblings, or against yourselves as well. Let's take a look how I've done that. Okay, so first of all, within the monkey, what I have done is this part here. So I've actually created another variable. So you can see now I've got two variables I've got highlighted here. The first one for score, and I've now got another one created for time. So that's what's creating that time display in the top left-hand corner. So I've got also show variable time, set the time to 0, but then within the loop here, I've got it waiting for 1 second and then changing the time by 1. So obviously each time a second goes by, it's adding 1, which is getting that clock effect. So it's counting up 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, etc. I decided to actually make the game time 60 seconds. So that's why I've got a repeat of 60 with my loop, but you could change that to be whatever you want. So if I was lucky enough to get through the full 60 seconds without hitting a coconut, rather than it being the coconut being hit, which would actually end the game, it would broadcast game over at the end of those 60 seconds. So again, hopefully you can remember what we were doing with that within the last tutorials, that we want to broadcast game over, which was what I was using to get the monkey to play the sound, pixelate to start disappearing, then fully hide the sprite and stop all scripts within the code to end the game. Okay, so I combined all those things together, and I think that was the main things to introduce you to. And that, again, just simple ones like when the game over broadcast, message was broadcast and received, it would also hide the banana sprites, and the coconuts were basically exactly the same from what we were doing in the last tutorial. I brought those in. The interesting thing to be aware of, a simple way to bring all this together. So you might be thinking, oh, do I have to start building up all of the scripts together, the programs together for all the sprites all over again, even though I've coded them in another program? Answer is no. So a really handy thing to be aware of, if I right click on these, you can see you can export and import. So you can actually export a sprite and just save that onto your desktop somewhere, call it whatever you want, and then you can also import. So you can export sprites from other programs that you've been working on and saved elsewhere, and then import them into a new program. So it's a great way of building on existing programs that you've got or combining other programs that you've got together. Okay, so don't worry about having to start them all from the beginning. You can combine different programs, different projects together. And as I said, I've just gone to the point of using the coconuts here, bananas, but you could be going into adding even more sprites, maybe bringing in strawberries and creating new codes for them similar to banana, but giving them higher point values, whatever you and the kids also see fit to make your game more interesting, whatever they want to do. Okay, so hopefully that's giving you an idea again of how we can combine both those things we've been learning about in Fruits War 1 and Fruits for War 2 together, and hopefully you're looking forward to getting the kids hands on with that. This is a really fun part where they're really started to fully take control of creating their own games, and at this point after doing this, they're even hopefully starting to get ideas of all sorts of different games they can create for themselves. And obviously, as part of this, we always want them to share their work. So make sure once they've created their game, the extension of the game, they're sharing that. So getting their fellow pupils or friends or siblings to play that, or getting you to play with what they've created and explain to you fully what they've done, why they've done it, and why their game is so great. Always an important part of the process. And we'll just end with our quiz just to try and help consolidate the learning. So we've got another 3 questions as always for you to answer around what we've been looking at today. So question number 1, I'd like you to read the program on the right-hand side here and answer the following questions. We've got a couple of questions on this. So first one is, what does the variable n do? So you can see we've got a variable within this code which we've just called n. Once this program runs, what does n actually do? So you've got the 4 options here. I'll just give you a few seconds to scan through these and imagine yourself which of these 4 options you think n does, and I will reveal the answer. Okay, so hopefully you've got in your mind which one of these n does. I'm going to reveal now. So it is, of course, A. So this is recording the number of the sprite's steps, because what we've got combined with this, within the loop, every time the sprite moves 10 steps, it is changing n by 10. So that's what this means here. Record the number of the sprite's steps. We're not asking it to look at the backdrop switches or the amount of times it hits the edge or any times it switches costumes. It's just related to the move 10 steps, which is what's detailed in point A. Okay, so hopefully everyone got that one right. Number 2, again with the same program, when the loop has run twice, what is the value of n? So I hope this is fairly straightforward, but once this is repeated twice, what will then be the value of n? So you've got the 4 options here. What one of these do we think it's going to be? It is, of course, C. Okay, so it runs twice, which means it is changing the value of n by 10 twice, which, of course, equals 20. So again, hopefully everyone got that one correct. And number 3, are the below statements true or false? So one of these is true, one of these is false. Which one do we think it is? There can be only one variable in the same script, or there can be multiple variables in the same script. Hopefully everyone knows the answer to this. It is, of course, that B is correct. So we can have as many variables as we want in the same script. You can keep on creating lots of different variables to help record and display all sorts of different data. Okay, it's not just a case of one variable being for one script. Okay, so that brings us to the end of lesson 11 and part 2 of the Fruits War. So thank you very much for joining again. Hope you've enjoyed that and found it useful, and you're looking forward to working through both of those lessons with your kids. Again, as always, once you do start to work through this and you've got any questions whatsoever, please do get in touch with us on info@creative-hut.com. And if you want to share any of the work that you and the children are doing, please do take any photos and videos and tag us in our social media channels, and we'll be happy to share the work that you're doing as well. And hopefully we will see you online for the final lesson in this course. We've got lesson 12 taking place tomorrow. So we'll hopefully see you online then. And again, we'll be making sure we send through all of the materials for this lesson and the others. So we will be sending through the links to where you can access the slides, lesson plans, and example programs for all of us that we've been working through today. But hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you very much again, and bye for now.